Thank you so much in the first place, Mr. Francis.
Welcome.
It's such a
It's honor.
pleasure. It's such a pleasure having you over. And I'm so glad that you agreed on one phone call. I'm absolutely obliged.
No, it's a honor. It's honor. And Ashok Pandeyji is like, is so integral part of our lives, right? So you use the right. Are you there? I mean, I'm seeing your image being stuck.
Yeah, ma'am, most probably has a little bit of a connectivity issue.
Yes,
Yeah. No, you know.
the light went off. Yes, sorry. So I'm back. Thank you so much for waiting. And I'm sure everyone can hear me. Aditya, if you can give me a thumbs up.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So just to begin, as I just mentioned, in fact, I can see my chairman on the screen. So thank you so much, Mr. Francis, for agreeing to be with us. And just to give a brief introduction, because Mr. Francis says that he would like to take charge of the show himself. And I'm so happy because my brief discussion with him, when I asked him that, these are the thoughts in my mind, and I think this is what we should be speaking on. Bang, he told me, this should be the topic we should be speaking on. And the topic we will be discussing today is, are we prepared for our learners once we reopen school? So I was kind of beating around the bush and he just came up with this one question. And that showed how much of clarity of thoughts Mr. Francis has. Mr. Francis Joseph, co-founder, SLN Foundation, coordinator, State International Curriculum Advisory Committee, Government of Maharashtra, member, BMC School Reforms Core Committee, Municipal Corporation of Greater Mumbai. And he said, please don't say anything else about me, but there's one thing I want to tell about you, Mr. Francis. When I was having a discussion about you with a few people, and especially with Ashokji, who I must thank for making it possible for you to come and address us, everyone said, Mr. Francis, he's a mover and shaker. And I was thinking, wow, you don't say that for too many people, that someone is a mover and shaker. But the more I'm reading and listening to you, the more I'm realizing it's not only that you're a mover and shaker and you rock the boat, because those are only people who talk about problems. But you are one person who sees to it that the boat actually moves towards still waters, and you're a person who looks for solution. I was just reading about your post this morning when you've said that the ICSE and the CBSE examinations should be stalled because Mumbai in particular is not in a very good position. We'll talk about that later, but it only means that you're absolutely connected to the current issues and you speak up about whatever you have in your mind. So thank you so much for coming and being a part of this. Over to you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm very honored to be able to speak to Chairman Sir. Thank you so much for being here. And to all the principals and teachers, it's always been amazing, right? During this lockdown, I think we are also connected well, thanks to virtually, right? Otherwise, it's impossible to take flights and travel to all across the world to meet people. But I think that's the boon of technology, and I'm very grateful that sometimes you have to be grateful to coronavirus for probably doing many good things also, right? It's not, I mean, there's no point living in negativity. I mean, look for positivity within negativity has always been the mantra, I think which we have all learned. My background is I started my journey as a teacher as early as 1990s. A very typical normal child in school, always sitting in the second bench, but never topping the mark list. Never got an opportunity. 1 minute. Never got the opportunity to even go on the stage, right? Thankfully, to the education system, which only allowed you to talk with your friends. So I think I came with a very normal education, but then I met the biggest teacher in life, which is life, and life really took me on a big roller coaster drive. And most of the people are witness to how life as a teacher teaches you more things than a building or a classroom, right? Life is huge teacher for us. So I think overall, I started growing. I started as a teacher, then started growing. I was with a group. I was working in a school known as St. Lawrence High School in New Bombay as a teacher. 4 years I worked as a teacher. Then I was pushed to start looking at setting up schools, doing up schools. And the St. Lawrence belonged to a group known as Ryan International. I don't know whether you've heard of Ryan International. So Ryan International, I carried on my journey in Ryan for almost for a long period, and I left them in 2011 as their COO. So I grew from being a teacher to being a CEO over my years of working with principals. And I feel the secret has always been working on the ground with people, right? Not working in offices, because sometimes, you get pampered so much, right? By big organizations that you grow up the ladder and you are actually in a big cabin initially, which is a classroom. Then you go into smaller cabins, which is like a CEO room, and then you get actually jammed. So I think, fortunately, we didn't allow ourselves, the culture didn't allow ourselves to go into that small cabin, and we continued remaining on the ground. I think that taught me a lot of lessons. 2011, I left, got into my own journey, and then I realized that life is very different, right? When you're on your own two legs and trying to make a difference. Got into a lot of affordable schools, started working on, had a dream of setting up a non-profit foundation, which I did. We called it SLN, which is School Leaders Network. Because by then I realized what my strengths are. My strengths I recognized is school operations and working with people and relationships. So it takes time for one to realize what are your strengths. Sometimes in bigger organizations, you feel that everything is your strength because you feel you are the organization is running because of you, right? But that's not the case in most of the scenario, because everyone puts in their strength and it becomes an organization strength. So I think every individual realizes its strength at some point of time, and which I realized pretty late. After leaving such a large group, I realized that these are my strengths. And then I started working on those strengths. Then I started believing that just working in a small school without even working with the public school system is not fair, right? Because it's incomplete. The puzzle was so incomplete. And I feel that every principal, since that day I've been propagating and I've been telling every school owner I meet, every principal I meet, that our role is incomplete if we only cater to the children who come to our school. It's actually incomplete, totally incomplete. And which I realized, right? And so I extended myself to trying to see how I can cater to more people, to the system, to the public school system. But it's never easy, right? Because because sometimes the public school system might say you're coming from a private school system, so why should we hear you? So I think, but it requires perseverance. It requires sticking on to it, right? So I spent like 3-4 years trying to prove myself that I'm here for the good of the community. Fortunately, at that time, of course, it was the previous government in Maharashtra. Uh, they believed me. They started, sharing with me, and slowly I got into the system as an individual. And that's where I'm so happy that when people who have worked with the private sector get an opportunity to add value to the public sector, I feel the puzzle is complete. Learning has to go both ways, right? It has to go from the private to the public to the private. And then I saw the big piece, the whole coin I saw together, right? The whole picture, which sometimes being in private sector, we don't see the whole picture. So I saw the whole picture. I could understand why governments regulate. I could understand why governments take such decisions. I could understand what the private people think about the government, because I saw both the sides, right? And it's very difficult to explain this to anyone, because you have to go through the journey on your own. Then you realize. But I always believed that I should not be in the front. I mean, when I sit with some a government authority, I should not be the person sitting in the front. I should be able to sit next to the person and support the person. So I've been able to do that, but there's no gain in it, right? Sometimes life is without gain. You have to just move forward. Like the issue which you mentioned, the mention about CBSE, ICSE, which are planning to conduct examinations in the month of July. Of course, everyone looks at a process, right? Most of the people, you look at a process and you keep sometimes compromise on safety, on well-being. I'm sure everyone thinks about safety and well-being, but sometimes you want to tick mark the process first. I think, and I'm very happy that I'm part of that, contributing to that policy and interacting with both the boards to see how mutually everyone talks to each other and we come to a solution which helps the children, because parents are very anxious. Children are very anxious. They had such an extended year this year. It's just not getting over. Examinations are just not getting over. So I think that's the whole journey which I've spent. I'm very fortunate to be here. And when I was speaking to Amrita and I was talking about, the topic, I'm very clear that we are what we should talk about and what we should put our energies on. Because currently I'm working with almost 600 affordable schools, trying to move them into this direction. I'm working with several other public policymakers on similar kind of thing, right? We've been doing so much webinars. We've been doing so much action happening on technology, so much discussions happening. I wish that all these discussions also are coupled with action, right? I want people to talk about action and less about what should happen. You should say, what did you do, right? But sometimes the community takes time to get into that spirit, right? So I'm here to say what I feel, how we should be prepared, right? Because we all hope, and we really hope that our children come back to our schools much faster than we can imagine. But I'm sure there is always a right time, right? A lot of governments are talking about maybe starting very soon. There are a lot of countries which have said that without vaccine, I will not open. For example, Philippines has been very clear. They said no school reopening till the vaccine comes out. So I think the world is moving around because none of them know how to handle this scenario. And this is not a scenario which has just happened in one country. It's happening all across the world. So we are all into this together and everyone is trying to innovate solutions. But when people say that, how do we handle this scenario and, and go back to old ideas, I personally believe that we have reached a time when we can actually innovate on solutions and look at for solutions which were never existing, right? Now, when schools went into lockdown, right, when we went into closure, there a lot of schools got into online. It just went online, right? I mean, we did not have a technology culture or a discipline which was ready for us. There were countries like Dubai, when they went online, they've said, wait, let's not involve the students and parents now. First, let's train our teachers, right? Because our teachers, the way they teach in classroom and the way they teach virtually are two different pedagogies. It's not the same. And our teachers are not ready to be teaching online because their pedagogy training is mandatory. And so what they did is the first 2 weeks, only those pedagogy training happened. Because now you're not only a face-to-face teacher, but you're also an online tutor, right? Online tutoring is very, very different from teaching face-to-face. So I think, and that journey, right, as of this 2 months of lockdown has brought so much changes, right? Now, I cannot say that whether we have gone forward or backward. Very hard to say, because in times to come, we will realize what impact it has made on our lives, right? We are just stepping out our houses now, maybe, and then we will see that last 2 months, what we did sitting at home, did it help me or did I go backward? Did I go forward, right? There are pros and cons. So I want to start talking about that, right? because life has changed in these 2 months for many of us. Many of us, physically, mentally, some people have gone forward, some people have gone backward, right? Which we have not realized, but we will realize in due course. Of course, family bonding has improved. So many of those things which we wished should happen to strengthen school education has actually happened. The parent has actually emerged strongly, right, in the teaching and learning. The value for a teacher is improved. So that we always wanted, that has happened. We wanted to see how do we use technology to strengthen learning. That has automatically happened. So many things which we always wished as schools, due to the lockdown, actually has become possible. But yes, there are many things which we didn't wish has also happened, right? Because this is the phase, 2 months is quite a long phase where habit formation happens, right? And if probably a habit has gone into it, you're stuck. So that's why I said there are forwards and backwards, right? So there could be positive habits, there could be wrong habits. I don't know how many of you, I mean, we all, when we used to go to school, we wake up like so early, but maybe even your sleeping pattern has changed over the last 2 months, right? Maybe in the afternoon, you would like to take a nap, right? You automatically yawn, right? So I am saying the sleeping pattern has changed, the eating patterns have changed, and all these things are happening among our children, our teachers. Our teachers are no different, right? They're also human beings. They're also learners. I actually don't distinguish between students and teachers, because for me, in a school, all are learners, all come together, all go together out. That's my philosophy of education. So last 2 months has brought a lot of changes among all our learners. And for us to recognize that is very, very, very important, right? Because one day these people will all come inside our school, and you might find that, oh, this child is a little bit different now. There is a high possibility. You might start seeing a different pattern among children, different pattern amongst teachers. So I think you have to understand that a child has gone through that kind of phase of 2 months, right? And you might need to work more harder to ensure that the child remained engaged. It's not going to be easy. Even if you reopen a school in August, by the time you actually reach the whole academic year, I don't know how much you will be able to cover in terms of learning outcomes. No. By the time you bring back the child and strengthen the child and start engaging with the child, the whole year will go off. That's why governments are talking about, can we reduce on the content? Can we, a little bit make it lighter this year? Because everyone realizes that the learners who are going to come back is going to be a little bit different, because, they've gone through so much during this phase. So even parents, right? When parents, the way they probably come back and talk to you about the child might change, because now they have spent more time in the teaching and learning of their children. So you can expect them to come back contributing more, right? You might think, oh, this parent never used to talk so much before, but I think the parent is talking a lot now, because the parent has actually experienced being with the child, has started understanding the child much better. So in my view, everyone is going to change. And in between the lockdown and between a reopening, there was a big thing which happened, which is online learning, right? And remote learning, whatever you call it, right? And this online learning has come out, I don't know how much positive negatives, because like I always say, it is impossible to understand what is right and wrong right now, right? When schools tell me, when you talk about online learning, they might say there is a screen time issue, there is a cyber issue, no, so many people do not have devices. But I think one positive thing which has come out of online learning is the blended learning approach, right? I think we have realized that education cannot be done in isolation. We have to use the power of technology. We have to use the power of the world being flat. Today, for us to get resources from anywhere in the world, it is just possible. 3 years back, I was reading an article of a school in Bihar, where that school was totally run by teachers coming on Skype and teaching children. Totally. They didn't have any teachers in the school. They used to timetable teachers, right? It's almost like a Skype school. So teachers used to come at that particular time from some part of the country or some part of the world, used to come and teach and go. At that time, because quality of teachers in those small villages were very weak, but I think technology came to his rescue. Similarly, when we start looking at structuring ourselves and being prepared, I think technology has given you the strength of bringing everyone. Teacher resources can, you can teach a child probably in a small village, right? And strengthen education there. So I think the whole dynamics have changed. The role of a teacher has totally changed. And for me, when I look at you preparing yourself for when you reopen school, you're looking at a new teacher, you're looking at a new student, you're looking at a new parent, you're looking at not in learning outcomes, but instead to engage more with that child and ensure that how that child is taken care of and how a transition happened. I still remember one of my friends used to work in a very small country. I don't want to mention the name of the country. He went for almost 5 years there, and he was working there. So that place was a very small place, very small country, and full of villages. And and he when he came back to Bangalore, and when I met him, he said, "My God, life is so different." Right? He almost went back of civilization, because for him he has never seen so much crowd, so much cars together ever in those last 5 years. So he's saying, and he just can't cross a road. We had to actually accompany him, because he didn't know how to cross a road, as simple as that. We might think it is funny, but if you stay 5 years somewhere where nothing is happening, and suddenly you come to a crowded city, you get worried, right? I think our children also is going to be in that state. Our learners are also going to be, everyone, right? You should try after a lockdown, when you get out, when you drive, there are possibilities that if you're not alert, you might get into accidents. You have to be very, very careful for the initial few days. When you cross the road, when children cross the road, they might not be totally oriented, because they have been on a total, it's almost like a locked up environment, right? And suddenly you're out. You get overexcited looking at ice creams. You because you have not had so much ice creams before. You get overexcited looking at 5-6 people standing together and talking. You feel, oh wow, what is happening? So I think there is a lot of new experiences the children are going to bring, and we need to ensure that we are able to maintain that. And in a school, when you talk about social distancing, physical distancing, I think it's just impossible. I mean, no education can happen with distancing, because, you can't tell a primary child not to run in a school. I think it is very, very cruel. And when a child sees a teacher after like 2 months, the child is going to run to the teacher for sure, right? You can't stop a child, right? You can't say, come on, it is social distancing. It is impossible. So I think we are going to face these kind of challenge. And when a teacher says, no, don't run, don't talk to me, the child is going to be surprised. What really happened? What did I do wrong, right? Because everything was going fine. The child does not understand your rules, the societal rules, right? So I think we have to understand that we have to not convert social distancing into emotional distancing, right? I'm very scared of emotional distancing, because you might land up creating a divide between you and the child in the name of social distancing. And that is very, very scary, because that is going to impact the way you teach in classroom, right? So there are very, very small things which you have to always remember. And no matter, you have to maintain those distancing and the norms when you reopen schools. But remember that what is going on in a child's mind. You have to remember pre-COVID, post-COVID, the child, you have to remember, right? This is how the child is, and find a balance. Like, this is how I should approach the scenario with, right? It will take some time to settle down, and understand the learners pretty well, because no one, including me, neither any webinar speaker, can say what will happen once the children come back to school. It's impossible. If you're saying, it's only, you are assuming things, right? But whether it has helped education or whether it has pushed us backward, we don't know. It's too early to say, right? We might think that we managed online learning, so we have done enough. We don't know. Even I don't know, right? I don't know whether we have done fair justice or we have given a right solution to our children. We don't know, right? Just giving a platform, online platform, doesn't mean that we are able to teach, because education is far beyond just talking to a child or explaining concepts. Education is all about being together, right? I can't imagine education without four people talking together. It's without emotion and without people coming together, there is I think there is nothing, right? Because it's almost like looking into the internet and taking stuff, right? So I think that's a huge challenge, and this year I'm very, very worried about whatever said and done. We might do the process of reopening schools, but I think the most successful school will be who are able to reduce the distance, keeping the distancing in mind, right? Especially the emotional distancing. That will be the most, and I don't know who has got a solution. Everyone is trying. A lot of countries worldwide have opened schools, right? Like New Zealand, I was talking to my colleague in New Zealand. She's so happy. She said, wow, I'm back to my school. There is no mask for us. They're so lucky because they're a less populated country, no cases, they are quite happy. And when she's looking at the images here of everyone, children, right, putting mask and giving examination, like the Kerala government examination, I mean, she said, what is happening? She asked me a question which I still don't have an answer. She said, isn't the government coming up with a national education policy which talks about stress-free education? Uh, I said, yeah, on the document, yes. Then why are they allowing such stressful environment for children when they write? I didn't have an answer, right? So I think sometimes, when we open schools, when we start planning, I know you can easily plan timetables, morning shift, evening shift. Everyone is planning there. But I don't know who's planning about reducing the, keeping the same relationship between a teacher and a student and a parent, bringing that back, which is the most toughest way to do it. Rest all solutions will come. You should have a sanitizer, mask. I was always scared that school should not come with mask with logos on it. And recently I saw schools are even doing that. I mean, children's face are not like billboards. They're not hoardings, right? Don't overdo things. I always advise schools, don't overdo things. These are not hoardings for putting on a face, right? Uh, so I think there's a long way to go. And I want all of you to be prepared and trying to find a solution. I'm repeating, find a solution of how you will keep your relationship with the child intact in spite of looking at afar, even if the child is far away, like 6 feet away from you, how you can actually create a bonding and retain that bonding, even in a classroom, right? When a child runs to you, what do you tell the child? You can't shout at the child, right? You can't say, come on, there is coronavirus, you don't come here, right? How do you answer the child? Find answers to these questions, right? Even if we open primary, and especially in pre-primary and primary, those kids though will long for the teachers. I can't imagine them sitting in one place and saying, come on, you are supposed to sit here. We are not like other countries like China, or where, if you tell a child sit here, they will sit here. No, we are a democratic country. There is freedom. Children have been brought up in such a way that they can voice their opinion, they can move, there is freedom of speech, and suddenly you're telling them just sit like this, right? I can't imagine no group activities happening. How can group activities happen with these distancing? So I think we have to find solutions as schools. We are finding solutions only from infrastructure point of view. We are finding solutions only about, how we should open, what kind of timing, all those kind of stuff. We are not finding solutions to ensure that with all these safety norms, how do we ensure that the core value of education happens? And core value of education and the core objective of a school is relationship. There is nothing beyond relationship which happens in a school. We are not as a school to teach math and science and geography or history. No, that all came as a part and parcel probably later, right? It's the relationship between a guru and a shishya, between a teacher and a student. I think if you are going to lose that and only talk about math and science and geography and history, then probably they'll better go to Khan Academy. I mean, why should they even be with you? So I think no matter I am supposed to answer with some solutions, I do not have a solution how we are going to tackle it, because time will teach us, right? There's no point talking about a solution if you do not have one, because the world does not have a solution. I mean, when Cambridge and IB cancelled their examinations, I was talking on their thought process on why did they cancel, how are they going to do it. But when they even looked at an internal evidences from the schools for judging their students, they trusted the school, right? The trust was there. So those boards trusted the school. So I've been requesting that why can't you trust your own schools? I mean, they are. If we start doubting our school, if we start doubting our teachers that they might not do it correctly, they might inflate the marks, then I think we are missing something here. And Cambridge and IB has given a big example that you should trust your own schools, right? If you're running a big education board and if you're affiliating a school, when you're affiliating, you're trusting them. And I think, and that's what they did. They just took a decision and said, come on, we're going to trust the school. We are going to believe that the marks and the internal evidences which you are giving are fair for the child. There is no wrong things happening, and we will give that to the child. So I think, and that's an element, huge core element in education, which is trust. So sometimes we have to look at our core element, and just not worry about processes, right? So it should not be like a tick mark. Now I've seen some schools making checklist, right? Okay, is this done? Is this done? When we have to reopen, we have to finish the checklist. Why are we thinking like real estate people, right? I mean, where this is there, okay, these people are going to sit in. No, that's not our job. Make a checklist of things which we should do, keeping relationship in mind, keeping trust in mind. I think that's the core area we have to worry. Tomorrow they might come to your building as a school, or they might not come, or they might come online, but that checklist will sustain all environments, not your building checklist. So I've heard a lot of webinars. That's why I actually avoid when you talk about reopening, because most of them talk about, they feel that having staggered classrooms, all these are innovative solutions. It's not. We are again becoming so process oriented. Do not be process oriented. We are teachers and we know our learners. We know what is the core of education. There was no school building when education started, right? It was between that teacher and that student. That's the birth of education. I think go back to those years and rediscover solutions. I think we'll get solutions. It's not impossible to find solutions, but probably if we get a direction. So that's why when it came about these examinations, a lot of people said, no, but examinations are important. I said, yeah, who said it is not important, right? I'm not saying examinations are not, but way you assess is not necessary. It has to be only written, right? Because the safety of the children. I mean, I can't imagine if I was a student, sit in a mask and even answer, write a paper. I can't. I'll suffocate. I need oxygen. I need water. I'm a human being, right? Even when people talk about, wearing a mask and jogging, tomorrow schools will make that also. They will make children play sports wearing a mask, which is so dangerous, which is not, you need oxygen. Whenever you run, whenever you walk, you need oxygen always. And I was reading a research report on it. So I'm not just talking based on my thoughts. You need oxygen when you play. So don't make football teams play thinking that wearing a mask, we can still play. No. So I think there are certain things we have to keep safety in mind. So even if people allow you to go make your students play and do, they say, no, sorry, I think this can be a risky for our children. So you have to keep safety and well-being as is the most important element. And this is the time the parents are actually watching you. They are not watching that how fast you reopen school. The biggest worry today is parents don't trust your environment. It is not about your building, right? They're not able to understand that how the children will actually learn with all these distancing norms. No one is looking an answer. No one is giving an answer to that. They're saying, no, we are going to, we're going to have this, we are going to have this infrastructure, but that's not what parents are looking for. They can't imagine, they know their children. They can't imagine a pre-primary or primary kid going and you making them sit fixed. They know their children will not sit. They know their children will run here and there. And that's what, and they like to do that, right? They want their children to be free. So I think we have to find solutions and win over the parents, saying that this is what we aim to do, right? This is what we aim to do. This is how we are trying to build emotional bonding with our kids, even if they are a little bit away. Yes, but this is how. And there are technological tools available to make happen. So moment you reopen school doesn't mean you have to stop technology. This is a big lesson which we always got, right? We just kept technology to probably a digital board and just kept, we didn't allow them to be used to help us, right? And if you're facing, I mean, I'm handling a project where we are almost taking 600 schools, all who are very, very brand new to technology, all those teachers. I told them very simple solution, right? You don't need training for even technology. It's not like other topics, right? The more you use, the more you learn, right? Who went to a university to learn how to use a WhatsApp? No one went. You went, I went, I don't know. There is a WhatsApp university anyway. So who went to a university to learn WhatsApp? We all learned. I've never even gone to learn how to use MS Word, right? I have done MS Excel. I use PowerPoint. I mean, how many actually go to do courses on that? So when it comes to technology, your self-exploration is critical. Now, there are many, many technological solutions which can allow to create that bonding also. But you need to find a research. You need to actually find out, how do I actually do? There are apps, there are, children of today, I'm sure when you do online learning, when you write to them on a chat, most of them will respond with an emoji, right? Because they are the emoji generation, right? Now, don't expect them to see, you can't tell them that, no, that's not the right way. But that's how the generation is. You didn't know your learners till now, but our learners are like this, right? They will like to send you an emoji rather than writing one long sentence, thank you, ma'am. No, they'll just send you a thumbs up. That's the generation we are, short-worded and quick. So I think now we are able to understand our learners better. And even I feel the students also, now they will have more confidence on the teacher because now you are talking their language. Till now, they felt that they are far ahead of technology than teachers, right? Because they can quickly do it. But now they know that our teachers are also doing pretty well. So that gap is also improving. So the moment you reopen, don't stop, don't increase that gap. Just keep exploring. You've gone into this journey of blended learning. So I say that when you start now you're 100% maybe online. Maybe when you start a school, you might be 50%. But even if the vaccine is found, even if everything becomes normal, keep it at least 90-10. Don't kill the online factor, which we all started doing. Don't do it, because maybe next year there is a Dorona or a Farona or some virus or some issue or pandemic might come. The world has learned a lesson now, right? The world has really learned a lesson. We can't wait. We were taken by storm when this came. Now take it as a lesson. and build your mechanism and system so strong as a teacher that even if anything happens, learning should never stop. I think that should be our goal very, very clearly. So the moment the vaccine is formed, you're open, don't just leave everything. Say that, oh, everything is okay, everything is normal, and something might just come up. So be prepared. And it's such a beauty thing, right? I mean, learning never stops is such a wonderful idea, right? You should never stop. Another one very good thing which has happened, which I want teachers to continue, is there is like a marriage of education and work which has happened now. All of you are working, but you're also learning, right? You're also going through probably courses in Coursera or edX, or if you're not, I would encourage you to do. Now that kind of self-learning culture which people were trying to push is now happening. I remember this was years back, almost like when I was with the earlier organization. We tied up with the Harvard Graduate School of Education through Wide World, and this is like 10 years back. And there is a course known as Understanding for Teaching, and Teaching for Understanding. And there was multiple intelligence. There were 2-3 online courses. So when I met the Harvard Graduate School, it was known as Wide World. That's the online platform of Harvard Graduate School of Education. When I went to them and I said, I want to do an online course for my teachers, I want to introduce. So they said, no one does in India. I mean, everyone is, no one comes to learn, especially teachers. Corporates come. So I went back to my teachers all across the schools, since we had many schools, and I managed to get 250 teachers, right? And we built a mechanism where we bear some costs, they bear some costs. Got these 250 teachers to do the online. Now, it's not like a typical certificate course, because usually in the Harvard Graduate School, you have mentors whom you're assigned to. So when you do assignment, you have to talk to the mentors and all those stuff. Our teachers were so raw, right? When they used to see a mentor, even before talking about the subject, they will look at a picture. And if the picture has got a small baby in hand, they'll say, oh, ma'am, is that your baby? So, so the teacher will say, hello, we are here to study, right? And please do not comment and get into private discussions, right? But our teachers were like this, and that's how they started. Beautifully, all these 250 teachers completed the online course at that point of time. And I know how much we had to support them to go through. But in today's time, it is, and this lockdown, the number of teachers who have taken on to e-learning is amazing. And that should again not stop, because the moment lockdown is over, you're back, you should continuously learn. Because continuously learning is the secret of teaching and sustaining the future generations. Tomorrow's generation after these kids will be more sharper, and you might be, if you're just a new teacher, you might land up teaching the new generation also, the new generation. So, and that generation is, especially due to this lockdown, the kids formation, the habit formation, which must have happened in children, the children are going to be much faster in terms of technology. If you have explored maybe a Google Meet or a Zoom or a Microsoft Teams, they would have discovered another 10 things. And we have discovered video conferencing now. Kids were doing video conferencing even before us. They used to meet and have, have chats among themselves. So they must have gone ahead of us. So it is my humble request that all of you have to keep learning and don't stop. Take these learnings of the lockdown and build that into your personal development system. So that's these are a few of my thoughts. Amrita, I would prefer that I would answer some questions so that, it becomes much interactive rather than just like, because I'll tell you, when I look at usually the Zoom and all those boxes, rectangular boxes, I think that, all of us have come from one big box into multiple boxes, right? One big rectangle. And I always tell the children also that, you had a big box. Now you come all into small boxes. I did a show with some children on student pranks of online learning. amazing. You know, kids are so bright and so smart because the classroom management has become another big thing for teachers, right? You know, and recently I put, you know, there were 4 or 5 questions which I put, which is usually mentioned by teachers, like, can you mute all? The moment you get into the class, you know, online, say, come on, mute all, which is actually, we are actually going back, right? We are actually going back in whatever we learned over the years that we should give student voices. And now if the moment we enter on online class, we say, come on, mute all. You know, no one is supposed to talk. So I'm saying there are many things which is happening, which we are taken us back. When you get to face-to-face teaching, don't mute all. Allow that student voice to come back. Otherwise, all the effort which we put till now is going to be drained out. You know, because online teaching, there are positives and negatives also, right? Even in classroom management, certain things, you know, how you teach an online might be very different in face-to-face and might not suit the face-to-face learning and teaching. So I think I'll speak and I want to interact a bit, you know,
Yes.
with these
Yes.
rectangular boxes.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. So I'll just request anyone who'd like to ask a question, please raise your hand on the participants bar and I'll obviously give you a chance. In the meanwhile, I just wanted to ask a question, and I'm really impressed by those very simple things that you spoke, but I think very powerful things that you spoke about. And it set me thinking, what is my own role? I hope my habits have not made me procrastinate in any way, you know, because we have to get back. And we have to get back.
Who gets a yawning? Who gets a yawn at around 1:30, 2 o'clock?
Thank God
Let's be very. You can evaluate yourself. I mean, you don't need to talk on a platform, but that's habit formation.
So I just wanted to ask my question, and then I have a few people raising their hands. So obviously, the role of a teacher has changed. You also mentioned, and you know that's very apparent. So I just want to ask you, what is my role or all roles of educational leaders? Our roles have also changed once the teachers' roles have changed. So what should my role be to see to it that I facilitate my teachers in their change of role and to see them through this? What's my role going to be as an
So I
educator?
think when you mention about since we have gone through this lockdown and this particular environment, I said that parents have been actively involved in teaching and learning. So they have entered our space, right? We have to understand that aspect, and you might realize it when you open the schools. The parent-teacher meetings might be more interactive than before, because now they have spent more time with their teachers. So it is very sure that besides mentoring and handholding and learning along with your teachers, you need to back up the parents also, right? Especially in this phase, they are also like a learner. I always say, like you make lesson plans for you know, teachers should also make lesson plan for parents. Right? They also need support, and the combination of home and school makes a total education, right? Till now we used to always talk, but now it has happened, right? There are positives and there are negatives to this, right? It's very so you need to ensure that you find that balance and mentor and support teachers and parents as leaders. Most of the time we have to do is to support them while we are also learning, because like I said, no one has got a solution. And if someone comes and says they have a solution to what is going to happen in education, it is impossible. It is just do not believe them. Even governments are learning, right? Even governments don't know how to do it now, right? How to open schools, no one knows, right? You might say, okay, next month we open, like France did, Korea did. They have to close down. So I think it is very important for us to learn together. I mean, we were having this discussion in one of our recent meetings in the Bombay Municipal Corporation, and we were looking at models, right? So we were saying, where is a model, which is a model which has worked? You know, there is no model yet. But yes, we can look at you know, we can look at countries where infrastructure, for example, is probably low, right? So if you want to look to a solution for access to devices, there are many countries in this world where access to devices and 2G is still happening and education is still happening. So can we look at those models? So I was mentioning about Kenya. Like there are a lot of villages where and towns where learning for the slum children and the poor children is still happening. So can we look at that model, how they use technology to ensure that the kids are learning? So look at models all across the world, which has already happened. Pick those models and then, and then share that with your teachers. Also, we have to work on as teaching community. We all, our roles have increased, our work has also increased, right? And there is no shying away from it. This is a time when we have to put more time and more efforts if we have to come back to normal. So there are children who do not have devices. So your duty is to ensure that you make materials enough. There would be a village school somewhere where they don't have technology. Can we make worksheets? Can we make, all these small worksheets and give it to those schools so children can at least do some activities sitting at home because they are not able to go to school? We have to feel the sense of contribution, the sense of volunteering at this particular phase. We are doing that now. We have started a volunteering scheme of where teachers are all making worksheets mapped as per the curriculum and the outcomes. And we want to give it to all across, feel freely available, right? So this is not the time to think about business models. This is the time to think about survival and sustaining the future. And we all have to walk together. Governments have to walk together. Everyone has to walk together. And no one can walk faster than the other, please. So that's our role. You need to support the governments. And sometimes you feel that the governments don't listen, but have the perseverance. Don't lose hope. You should contribute because you see the world much larger. The government does so many things together, so they're not able to see minutely, right? So when I say Kenya model, probably they don't know because they are looking at the overall, all the kind of problems are their problem. We are only looking at education. So you look at models, share it with them. Sir, can we do this? Can we try? Can we support you? They might not listen to you the first time. Go to them second time, third time. Don't lose hope. That is my formula. Always, even if I don't get anything, I will still go and I will help. Even if people feel bad, I will go still and help. Simple.
Lovely. Don't lose hope. Thank you so much. So our questions coming on the participants bar is Mamta ma'am. Mamta Jaiswal ma'am is the principal of our middle
Hello,
school. Yes.
Hello.
So please, Mamta ma'am. Mamta ma'am, can you hear me, ma'am?
Good morning. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, sir.
Yeah.
Where I'm really getting stuck is when I've started interacting with my students. As of late, my students in the middle block, they have started asking, I can feel their desperation of joining school. They know we are not allowed, government is not allowing, we're trying to assure them, but they are kind of desperate to get back to school. They have been telling me, ma'am, for 3 years, we promise we won't ask for another holiday. Whereas the junior school children, they're also asking me, ma'am, why are you not opening? On the other hand, there are parents who are telling me, ma'am, what is the hurry? Please don't open. I really don't know how to handle this situation. If you could just guide us, sir.
So I think, like I told you, that's why I was emphasizing that the block is the parents, right? That's why I was really emphasizing on parents. The parents do not have the confidence that we are able to run the education, keeping the safety in mind. So there is some mistrust in my view, right? Which is there, which was always there. I mean, it was not 100% always true. There was always a gap of trust between the parent and the school. But now they do not have the confidence, because if they would have felt that if I send to the school, they will treat this child like my child, then they would have sent, right? So I think you have to work more with the parents, do sessions with them. Right? Don't tell them that we are going to make safety, mask and all those stuff. Okay, you will continue doing that. but show them, probably they are not hearing their students, right? They don't know the emotions running between the child and the teacher, right? So I think
Yes.
you should spend more time and do more session with parents. Don't tell them that you're trying to trying to educate them, because no one likes to hear that someone is teaching someone in this world. No one likes. But I think as adults, when we share our experiences, so when I talk to a lot of people, I take my personal experience, right? And I use my personal experience as a parent when I talk. I never talk like an educationist. I talk like a parent. So I think if you can talk like a parent and involve more parents and do more workshops, give them that confidence. There is no other way. There is no other solution unless you, and if some people come and join, the others will follow. So there are some leader parents who will actually pick up and trust you faster. So work on them, let them come, and the others will follow. And there are people who will never come. It's okay, because you should never force, we should never force. If they are not feeling secured, then fine. They might not go anywhere. They might just remain at home forever till the vaccine is formed. But that's fair. We should never force them.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Can I please request everyone else to mute themselves? I think there's some slight disturbance. So the next question, Mamta ma'am, if you can please lower the hand. The next question is from Gurmeet ma'am. Gurmeet ma'am is the principal of a K-12 school and the flagship school that we have amongst our group. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Good morning and Jain, sir.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, sir. I'm fit and fine. Thank you so much. So my question is, like you mentioned, that we need to keep the relationship between a teacher and a student intact during when they come back. So like we are doing a few things, like we have a counselor, the teachers are talking and all, but what more can be done on that front so that, the whole bonding improves furthermore?
I think do things which are not directly only curriculum, right? We focus only on our curriculum so much. Do a Zumba show with all those kids together as teacher. And have a Zumba teacher come in and do I'm saying kids, you have to understand, are in an environment now of fun and frolic and all those stuff. Use those to, and bonding is always stronger in areas which are not teaching and learning, unfortunately, right? When you do a sports, when you do a dance, when you do a music, your bonding only strengthens, right? So I think you should try non-academic things to strengthen your bonding. I feel that's the only way. If you do any kind of teaching and however you call them and speak to them, this is the time when you can use the power of your PT sirs, PT teachers, music teachers, dance teachers, make a total, just have fun and let them not think they're learning. I think those kind of sessions are very, very crucial. They will love you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Also, sir, like class, if you talk to the senior teachers, I talk about say 9, 10, 11, 12 teachers who are teaching them. Right now also, they're so much worried about their own courses. Like a physics teacher is like worried about my physics course. Now they will say that we already, already the kids did not learn for 3 months and now the school reopens. Again, they are doing all type of Zumba and this and that. And, my teaching is going behind. How do you handle the anxiety of a teacher? Because for teacher it is the curriculum is the main thing. Yes, sir.
So this is why I said this year teachers have to put a lot of efforts to sustain and survive, right? If we try to work the way we used to always work before, it won't happen. This year we have to keep education at the core, right? This is a challenging year for every teachers. So if you start thinking that till last year I used to do this, but now I have to do more, then there is some disconnect in your heart. You will have to put in more efforts. There is, if you are concerned about children not learning, you have to do more. There is this is the real time, testing time for teachers. So if you, and don't look like a checklist. Teachers should not look at a checklist. This year, don't worry so much about curriculum and all those stuff. This year, we have to, ensure that our children are back to normal in terms of their mental growth, physical growth. They are ensuring that they are normal. There's no depression. There's no mental health. So try to focus there. Don't worry so much about the processes, right? That okay, itna cover hua, this they have not learned. Even parents are not expecting that. And I hope the government also understands that this is not the year where we should push. It's almost like a gap year, whatever said and done. Like I was looking at a research of how people are during this online learning period. What is the one thing which is happening all across the world, which is common? And one thing which is happening is most of the teachers are only trying to engage with children through online learning, not even teaching. They have not reached the learning outcomes yet. Even they're grappling with how to just keep the children engaged, right? Because after online, what do they do at home? So I'm saying that has become the top priority. And that is a real, that's a real thing, right? If you try to push them for teaching and learning and finishing subjects and class, then it's like, I think it is just not as per how the NEP is also planned for the country. Countries cannot move like this. This is an opportunity to transform our education system, huge opportunity. I just wish that the government looks at this as an opportunity and just cuts across, brings, start trusting schools, start working on assessments. How do you guarantee me that to March 2021, there would be an examination? Who has a guarantee? Which person in this world can tell me it can happen normally? Cannot, because it is not in our hands, right? Because we don't know when the vaccine comes out. No one can say. The vaccine has to come, has to reach to all the countries, has to reach to every person, every village, every town. Who has got a guarantee? So are we working on how to assess children in 2021 March? Can we plan some alternative right now? No. If we want to just put them again in a classroom, then it's easy. So I think we have to look at more bigger solutions, in my view.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
That reminds me, sir, I was just, when you spoke about opportunities, I don't know how many of you all may have read. I will forward it to you also, sir, and to everyone. This little child, a 17-year-old child called Anvesh, has written in Livewire, and he's written a wonderful letter where he's questioned Prime Minister Modi. So the point is not that. The point is, are we really pushing our children very gently to think creatively? When you're in the rigmarole of your maths and the physics and the chemistries, you don't think about these things. But because the situation is different, and maybe the pressure of academics is also a little low, because it's not really possible on an online platform to have all learning outcomes, as you said. We are now in a position, I think, to give an opportunity to our children to think differently. It just in my mind, I'm sorry, I'm kind of, speaking about it.
No, I think you're perfectly right. There are opportunities for everyone, provided we see them as opportunities, right? It is quite possible that you might want to go back to how you were doing before. So any change, when it happens, it gives you opportunity, it gives you thoughts and ideas. It depends on you, right? Whether I should pick up and work on it more and move to the next level, or very easy to go back. Okay, this is how I used to do. Okay, let me go back. Then you always remain in the well. You have to. This is an opportunity to come out of the well. It's such a beautiful opportunity.
Right. Lovely. Thank you. Thank you, sir. So we have another question from Chandan. Chandan, sir, you've raised your hand. Please ask your question.
Yeah, please.
Good morning and Jai Hind, sir. Actually, we are highly motivated with whatever the guidance that we have given. Just my question related to very basic thing that we all have as a teacher, we encountered in our classes that the students, the good ones, they are just scribbling for 1 mark, 0.5 marks. And few of them are stuck at their villages, or there may be few of the students who are, because of this connectivity issues, they miss out 2 or 3 classes like physics, chemistry, maths, or some tough subjects. So in that case, their parents and the kids, they all are become very much concerned about that thing. They seems to be little bit frustrated because of this thing. that how we are going to cope up with this situation, that all the online classes are going on, everything is going on, and we have missed out the good ones. I'm talking about the good ones. So what is what the message that we can give to them, how to convince, although we had a talk with them, but then also just I want that what message we can give.
See, you have to understand the parent is already going through so much in their life, right? They are working from home already, doing their work, managing their family, ensuring the teaching and learning of their children are happening, plus listening from their neighbor that this street there is a coronavirus, that street there is a coronavirus, and then speculating that what more you should do, what you should not do. Think about that parent. And then on top of that, we always want to do what we used to do earlier, right? Like in terms of conducting exams, conducting this, as if nothing has happened, right? We sometimes behave in such a way that nothing has happened. So I think the parent anxiety level is very, 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 very high. So you have to, if until and unless they see you understanding their their position, until unless they don't see you that, they will never trust you. Because they will always doubt that, okay, you probably want my children to come back, right? So that's why I always said you have to set your own example, be a role model yourself for them to see. So when I say, like I say, I talk like a parent. This is what I do with my children. This is what I do with my children. You have to be a role model. So start with your children and then pass that. That's the only story they will believe because then they will know that you are not being biased to their children. The trust level, and because of all this kind of pressure happening on them, they don't know, they're also not guided on which step to take, what not to take. It's such a confusing world for them. So I really pity them. It's not easy. I mean, I've seen parents so much anxious. They keep WhatsApping me, sir, what will happen to my child? He's in 9th standard now? What will happen next year? I said, why are you worried? I mean, just your child is safe, right? That's the first thing. So either your child becomes safe or you are worried about your marks. I say, make a choice. You want your child to be safe, or you want to send them writing an examination and get infected, or maybe he's lucky he doesn't get infected, which you want to. So for them, safety is very crucial, right? Make them realize that safety is important, right? Of course, the government is also doing a lot to ensure that even when examinations are happening, safety is maintained. But the virus does not look at anyone. It's on free flow. The problem would not have been that bad. If we had a vaccine, I would have, everything was okay. Our systems are not ready. I'm sitting in Bombay. We have got so many cases all across. The system is not able to take care. We can't get enough beds. Everyone falls sick. Where is the hospital? So you have to think about multiple things, right? So, and think about all this anxiety adding to the parents. And then you're talking about, maths mein itna khatam nahi kiya, utna khatam. I mean, they will just not understand.
So true. I was
Thank
just
you, sir.
listening
Thank you,
to
sir.
somebody, sir, yesterday. I just thought, since my teachers are also there, where this gentleman was speaking about the pyramid, and he says at the most important level, the base level is safety of a child.
Yeah.
Next is the regulation, the rules and everything that you made, the checklist you spoke about. So which is also important for safety. And right above that is another very important of safety, which is a socio-emotional point you spoke about. And he says the last is cognition. So concern should be the least for cognition. And I forgot to
And
mention.
I think the world, if you look at all progressive education systems, right? Cognition, academic, all this running for math and science and marks is the last. Better education systems are more based on social emotional thinking and creative thinking, better education systems, right? That's why when she spoke about opportunity, I said this is the best time to implement NEP, right? If you're talking about national education policy, now the ground level is perfect to actually launch it and prove that, yes, we want a stress-free education for children. We want an education which is more about human relationships, not about rote learning. I think we have come to that. We wanted technology coming in, technology is coming. This is the best opportunity.
Right.
Yeah.
So right. So right, sir. So today is also World Environment Day, and I didn't wish
Yeah.
everyone a very happy World Environment Day,
Thank you.
especially when the world is healing itself. The earth is actually healing. And I'm hoping that we'll be looking for better days. I'm reminded of a very nice, few lines of Faiz Ahmed Faiz in this moment, which says, "Dil na umeed to nahi, naakaam hi to hai, lambi hai gam ki sham, magar sham hi to hai." And I'm sure there's going to be hope for all of us.
Yes.
With that, we'd like to come to the end of this. And before we end, I'd like to request our director, Mrs. Bharti Madhok, and our chairman. I don't see him on the screen, but I see that he's around to give a
Yeah,
vote
he's
of
there.
thanks. Ma'am, over to you, please. Bharti.
Yeah, thank you, Amrita ma'am, and thank you, Joseph sir. You said so many simple things in such simple words, which yes, did strike a chord. And I would like to mention 2-3 points, which the takeaways of this is like for the teachers, individual patterns, what is going to matter. If as individually I want to grow, yes, I will not be sitting at home for 90 or maybe 120 days. We'll be seeing this as an opportunity to learn more and more and to connect with generation next. If we have to connect with generation next, we have to be up and above with technology. And this is what you rightly said. And, I also agree with you when it comes to what is more important, assessment or learning? Even if suppose there are no exams, suppose the government says this year we will not have exams, everyone will, each 10th child will go to class 12th or each 9th child will go to class 10. Will the child stop learning? This is sometimes when parents tell me that, oh, my child is in 9th. This year he doesn't have boards. So even if he doesn't do few Zoom classes or doesn't attend the class, he's not missing out much because agle saal hai na boards. And I sometimes wonder, are you only preparing children to be assessed, to be judged, or to get a certificate? So I'm very happy to, somewhere your thoughts,
I
you
want,
did.
I want to just
You
add
did.
here. I just want to add here. Sorry, Bharti. I just want to add here. Recently I was in one training we were conducting on YouTube. Even before the training started, teachers were asking for certificates. So we were saying, hold on, you're here for learning. Don't. So the process-oriented mind, right?
I know.
I want a certificate. That itself is a wrong style of thinking.
They're, selfish or say mean at small things. They do not see the bigger thing. Some teachers, everyone has an opportunity to learn more, whether the outcome can be put on paper or not. But yes, children will never stop learning. We as human beings should not stop learning. And I think thanks to you for voicing, even putting this thing on record for so many of us. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not I think I can see Deepak sir.
Yeah, I can see him.
Oh, great. So for you to say a final thank you and a bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Francis sir. I was very happy listening to you today. And my staff, all of us, we learned so many new things. You see, I had 2 points when I was thinking about today's meeting with you. And one was of willpower, and the other one was of technological advancement. And the willpower thing was a story about the Japanese, when they lost their samurai, lost on the shores of to Commander Perry, I think. And they bought the entire library of the US. They started buying books to an extent that books were in short supply in the 1870s and 80s because Japan started buying everything. So that's kind of willpower they had. And that's the kind of, they wanted to learn everything, and they were so powerful, but by the end of the century, they could even invade China. So second thing, historically speaking, was a similar dilemma, which was confronting the human race was in 1898, when a huge conference in Chicago said, like, we are in the middle of an environmental crisis. The world is going to die of pollution because of horse manure. You heard it right, horse manure. Because there were about 10 lakh horses in the city, or 500,000 horses. And even when the horses die in the snow or the rain, you had another horse carriage to take away the carcass. So, this was the greatest problem. And what happened? Technology. So we must have hope in science and technology. Technology comes up, and Henry Ford comes up with a car in 1901. And what happens? The horses are off the street. So you're not bothered about the horse manure anymore, which was 10 feet high in New York. So I'm just trying to bring some kind of a sense into this puzzle, which you rightly said the government is not even able to decipher. And that sense is that let's have hope in learning, hope in technology, hope in our willpower. And today a parent asked me, he's an astrologer kind of a parent, he runs an astrology clinic, So he asked me, how long is this going to be? I said, you are an astrologer, you tell us. When are the planets aligned to that? So he said, we don't know, but we don't want our children to attend school for 1 year. I said, that's fair enough. But what about learning for 1 year? Learning and schooling are two different things. And I would end by saying, Mark Twain telling us, never let my schooling interfere with my education. So let's have education, even if we have schooling at home. So wish you all the best, everyone. Jai Hind. Thank you, Francis sir, for being with us. We want more of you. Dil mange more, Amita ma'am.
Yes.
We have to have more of Francis
Yes.
sir.
So once we are all back to normal,
Thank
sir,
you.
and we would love to invite you over to the school and interact with more teachers. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye, sir. Take care.
Thank you.
Stay safe.